Oh, okay, because I can't see.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Advocacy. Tonight we have Monique Dual with us, and I'm flying solo tonight, so bear with us. But I think me and her can hold down the fort. Monique is definitely someone that does her own podcast, and I'm not going to tell her story. I'm going to let her tell it. But Monique, I'm going to let you tell us a little bit about yourself and your son.
Okay. Hi everybody. Thank you for having me. First of all, it's been a long time coming, and I am pleased to be here. I am Monique Dual. I'm the founder of Disability LLC here in Prince George's County, where I pretty much show people how to get resources that they may or may not know about here in PG County, as well as other areas, because we connect when we go different places and do different things. So if I don't have the answer, I usually know somebody who does. I am a 8, 9 time author, podcaster, host of Having a Moment with Moni podcast that streams everywhere. So I do a little bit of everything. My son is 25. He has spastic diplegia, cerebral palsy, which means that his muscles and stuff is affected. He's pretty much, for lack of a better word, an invalid. I have to do everything for him. He can't move, he can't walk, he can't bathe himself, he can't go to the bathroom, he can't cook, he can't do any of those things. He has diminished capacity. So I wear a little bit of many hats.
Yeah, don't we all? When your child
hmm
and I say this every time, but most of our kids, even though they've been diagnosed with one thing, most of them come with multiple disabilities.
Yeah, yeah, yep,
Yeah.
yep. He does too.
So Monique, did you say his age?
25.
25. Okay, okay. So Monique, tell us when you say that you have a podcast, right?
Having a moment with Moni, yes.
Okay, okay. So, what does that look like? What's some of the guests that you have on there, or what do you do with your podcast? I know we kind of bring resources to our parents. How do you kind of structure your podcast?
My podcast has been a solo podcast since episode 1, and we're over 120 something episodes in. So basically, what started out as an online diary, if you will, has turned into a whole ministry movement. God shifted it. So I will usually tell you a story about what happened. I give you a scripture that corresponds with it, tell you who God is and how He can help you through it. We pray, and then I invite people to accept Christ if that's what they want to do and teach them how to do that. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, okay. Well, I know
Yeah.
we're gonna move. We definitely want to move into talking about your struggles or your journey. Not always a struggle. I mean, I know when we first start out, a lot of times it can be a struggle because
Yeah.
naturally, when we got pregnant and we went through having our child, the last thing that we envision is us having a child with disability. So, can you tell us a little bit about your beginning and your journey?
At the time I was pregnant with Jeremiah, I was spending time at my mom's house, taking care of my autistic brother at the time and sister because she had had a stroke. And I woke up one morning and I was bleeding out. That's where it all started. They were able to put me on bed rest because I was not in labor. I was just bleeding out. And come to find out, I had a placenta issue, a hairpin placenta issue that was causing bleeding. Jeremiah was born at 2 pounds at 27 weeks. And he was diagnosed with CP at about 3 months, 3 to 6 months old, something like that, because he was not meeting milestones. And of course, as a parent, you're like, okay, he was born early, give him time to catch up. I was never in denial. I just did not know what was going on with him. He would look at toys and just stare at them. He wouldn't reach for them. He wouldn't try to roll over or, follow certain things with his eyes unless he was interested in it. And so it was like, okay, like I said, maybe he needs to catch up. Then doctor just walked in, did his little test, and said, "Oh, your son has cerebral palsy. Here's some pamphlets and stuff like that," and walked out the door. And I was just like, "Huh? What is that?"
Mm.
So I had to go home and look on the computer back, when AOL was making that funny noise and all of that,
Mhm,
and do all
mhm.
these, research. And then during his infancy and stuff, he started having these involuntary body movements, which my oldest son caught. He said, Mommy, Jeremiah's twitching or something. And I said, What do you mean? And he was just on the floor just twitching. They were playing. He said, See, he's doing that thing with his eyes. And so he had seizures at first. And so at that point, I say, Listen, Lord, okay, we got to deal with the cerebral palsy. We got to deal with it. But I need you to do some of these seizures because this is terrifying. I don't know what's going on with him. He can't tell me anything. And so by us being in ministry and stuff like that, I took him to our prayer service. We prayed and, asked God for healing. And one fine day, he just wasn't having them anymore.
And what type of
So
seizures were those?
I don't know what the word is for it. It was just his eye would twitch. He would just like half of his face or his eye would twitch, and I can't think of that word. It's quite a big
Okay.
word, but he
Okay.
wasn't having full body ones, and he's been thriving ever since. He had to spend about 3 months in the NICU, away from everybody. He had to be resuscitated, which I talk about in one of my books. I was there when he had to be resuscitated. I didn't know it was him that they were resuscitating. I was on the lactate side, the lactation side pumping, and I heard cold blue NICU. I go in there, they're pumping my son. And so
Mm,
seeing it on TV is a whole different ball game than watching it in real time. My son was as blue as purple as your background, and they were just pumping and pumping.
mm,
And I was like, oh my Lord, really though? I'm like, God,
mm.
I mean, so many things was just running through my head because I had just buried my maternal grandmother 2 months prior. And I was like, God, this cannot be happening now. I don't have, I'm just thinking I don't have money for a funeral. How am I supposed to, cope with all that? And just when they was getting ready to call it, you know how they only do CPR for so long and they go, well, we have to call it. I said, call what? You better call Jesus and get to work. And they would get ready to turn the machine off, and then it just went beep, beep. And I was like, oh my God, that was the longest, I don't know how many minutes of my life. And then he had the nerve to smile at me like, Mommy, you thought I was leaving peekaboo. I was like, oh, I could just snatch you off this bed, you
Yeah,
know?
because I know it has to be a certain amount of time that they are without oxygen.
Yeah, I don't know how long it was, but watching them pump and having the parents, when your child is a NICU, you build a whole community. So I had other parents that were in there visiting their babies around me. They were praying. I was sitting there crying and almost inconsolable watching them and just like, okay, God, if you hear me, if you hear this, if you don't hear me no other time, hear my prayer. I won't ask for nothing else type deal and all of that. And just like I said, thinking about funerals, thinking about, being a motherless kid and how to explain it to his older brother who's a toddler and all this stuff. It was a lot there. But
Mhm.
like I said, he's 25 now. So God is good. He is an
Yeah.
amazing young man. He's very smart. He loves to sing. He loves to pray and worship. He is social like me. He's a people person and he's just a joy. Even when he's not feeling good, he's smiling and singing and joyful.
So is he verbal?
I mean, let me explain what I mean by he is verbal but not verbal. He will say whatever comes to mind for him to say, or he may can ask for certain things, but he can't say, "Mommy, my head hurt."
Okay.
Mommy, I don't want to go there. I'm afraid or something like that. He'll look at TV and he'll hear a word or a song and he'll sing it over and over and over. He'll say, Mommy
Wow.
thirsty. Oh yeah, he's a parrot. Mommy thirsty.
Okay.
Mommy sleepy, or he'll say mommy sick or mommy doctor. That's how he tells me that if he doesn't feel good. He doesn't say his name unless you kind of coax him to. I don't know what it is about him saying his own name to himself. He just doesn't like to do that.
Hmm.
And he won't say that he needs his diaper changed. Those are the two
Hmm.
biggest things that he don't do. But he talks all day and all night till he goes to sleep. He says words, phrases, whatever it is, a song, whatever it is that's in his spirit at the time.
And what does Jeremiah like to do other than, I mean, does he watch
Um,
TV? What does he do? And like give us a snapshot of what his day looks like.
Well, he loves to bowl and he loves to swim, but we have to have somebody to put him in the pool because mommy can't lift him like I used to. So he can actually float with the little yellow thing that goes around his neck. He swims better than most adults. So he loves to do that.
Wow.
He loves to bowl. Because his hands is like this one especially. His right hand it stays like this, but the left one he can maneuver. So he likes to use his tablet. He likes certain cartoon shows he loves watching, church, Bible study and Sunday morning worship because he grew up somewhat in the First Baptist Church of Glenarden, so He loves himself some Pastor Jenkins, and when they're singing and worshiping, he joins right on in. He loves to eat. He loves to eat. So whatever, he's not a picky eater, which is great. I don't have a problem there. Other than that, he used to be able to scoot around on the floor and stuff like that, but now because he had his spine fused and all that kind of thing, he can't go sliding across the floor like he used to. So wherever you prop him up, if he's not in his chair, that's where he's going to be at. If you put something in his hands, he will try to maneuver it as best as he can, like I said, because his right hand is bent, but the left hand he can kind of freely move more freely than the right. But he's grown now, and so with kids with cerebral palsy, as they grow, their muscles and tendons become like a rubber band. So when he try to put his arm out, it just snaps back like that until
Mm,
they surgically lengthening it. So that's pretty
okay.
much, what he likes. He loves to go for car rides and stuff. Like I said, he see people
That's
outside, he'll say
Morgan.
hi, good morning, and stuff. And some people say hi, and other people look at him like he crazy. It's the ignorance is just astounding in this day and time. How,
Yeah.
you can't catch cerebral palsy. He's just saying hello.
Yeah.
He's not the plague. You can't catch it, but
But this
that's
is
the
why we
kind of
do
things he
this
love to do.
part. This is why we do a podcast because I think people, some people, I will say that they don't know, they don't understand. And I know
Hmm.
even with Morgan, it was not all the time that they didn't want to speak to her or whatever, but people want to know, okay, what happened? That's the first thing we say is what happened.
Yeah,
And you're
yeah,
like, I love to just tell people my story. And it's like, what happened is what you didn't know, neither did I. I wasn't,
right.
I think people I think people just assume that, and I will say I don't think it's just to be mean, but it's just the ignorant mindset, not in a bad way. But if you don't know, you just don't know. We didn't grow up learning about people with disabilities in my era.
Nope.
We just didn't. And then at the same time in my era, it was a rude thing for you to ask questions, which to me was not always a good thing because asking questions, it helps us to understand people more. And so I think for me, that's why I wanted to do a podcast. I wanted to do more of an informational session just to be able to give people an opportunity, my age group that was never allowed, and for the younger generation so that they understand like the what happened. And that they asked me the strangest stuff that I think, but it was something to help them understand. Like, what does Morgan like to do? Does she go to school? Does she stay home with you all day? And I'm like, no, she goes to school. She does. And most people, again, they just don't understand because for me, I even thought, coming up that you had some of our people that were considered as mental retardation in our
Yep.
schools. That's what they were labeled. And they were at
Hmm.
the school. But I rarely saw people who had cerebral palsy who were lifted or people that were in wheelchairs, like to the extent of what you're saying your son was. I didn't see
Hmm.
them. And most of our class that was in those, like the special ed, they were kept away. They ate lunch at a different time than we ate lunch. They
Yep.
did things separate from us. There was no certain thing, no thing that was called inclusion. It wasn't.
Nope. Nope. My brother
Yeah.
was considered mentally retarded. And I did
Okay.
not know that. I did not know that what he had was autism. We called him special. So
Mm,
when my mother, I remember hearing my mother always say, "I have a special son, so we can't do that," or whatever the case may be. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know why people was, making fun of him because what we know is STEMmy, which for those who don't know is when they would rock and shake their hands and do this or whatever, and do this or stare at their hands and all that. People thought it was weird and they just made fun of him in our neighborhood. They just was, ignorant. I didn't know
mhm.
what any of that meant. I just, did what any big sister would do in that moment is try to defend. I'm like, what you don't understand, don't, it could be you. Don't do that, because
Yeah.
he's a person too with feelings. So
And that
yeah,
became your norm. I think that became your
yeah.
norm. And yeah, I think it's I we had a show a couple of times on siblings because even for my son, I wanted him to be able to talk about having a sister and living somewhat of a restricted life because of his sister.
Hmm.
Because as you just said, there were times that we could go, like he wanted to go places, but naturally I couldn't take my daughter, such as the movies, as she got older.
Right.
The noise was too much for her. And
Hmm.
so for me, it was like I wanted to kind of channel in on, well, how did you feel, Jeremy, growing up with a sister that was disabled? Because in some ways you were made to live a restricted life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. My oldest
So
son was like that. Like
that's why I was
I
going to
had to
ask
do
about your
things.
oldest son.
Yeah, my oldest son, Ronnie, he could do everything. And so I had to draw the line. It's like, okay, I did things with him. And then I
Hmm.
did things, I guess, separate that Jeremiah could do, but he was included, but there were things that only Jeremiah could do and understand, if that makes sense. So a lot of my time and attention, unfortunately, back then, because I didn't know any better, went to Jeremiah because he required so much.
Hmm.
So I'm grateful for the village that we had, because his aunts and a couple of his cousins really, were instrumental when he was coming up in his formative years to help me with that balance, because I was divorced.
Hmm.
Their father and I got divorced. And so here I was, a single mom with a disabled, um, a disabled son who needed all of these things that I had no idea what they were or what they were going to look like. My oldest son had IEP as well, because he had some learning issues in the beginning and stuff. So I had two with two different things. So
Hmm.
trying to navigate that as a single mom, it was quite a bit, but we made it
Hmm.
through it and we made it work.
But how was, and I too went through a divorce. I did go through a divorce myself, and I will say that was, the divorce was hard within itself, but then being left with, to me, the responsibility, like I didn't have the village that, I mean, I had things, but people had their own lives. So ultimately I was the person that was the primary, I was the secondary, I was the backup, I was everything.
Hmm.
How did that look for you? Did you get the help that you needed from their father? How does that look?
Nope. Not at all. Nope.
See that?
Once he divorced me, he went on with his life, and he wanted
Yeah.
to see Jeremiah when he decided that he wanted to date or marry a new woman, to paint this picture that he was an involved father. And I think that it's interesting that these women, knowing full well that he was not taking care of his son, who was an invalid, thought that he was the greatest to marry in the first place. But that's another topic for another show.
Yeah.
He's on his third wife, and this wife has a child that has some sort of, um, IEP or behavior issues and stuff. I'm like, so how is it that you going to ignore your whole child that you helped create to go marry somebody with a child that has an IEP that you have to give attention to?
Yeah, that's,
And so that's
everybody
how it
has a day
goes.
and time of reckoning for that one, as we know.
Yeah, yeah. So that
Hmm.
was the hardest part. The divorce wasn't necessarily hard, because I had been single in the marriage from the get-go. He loved the idea of being married, but once the children came, because he was so enamored with me. But
Hmm.
once the children came and we had to shift focus, he didn't want all that responsibility. He just figured, the idea of marriage looked good on paper, and he had a wife and a kid. But the responsibilities, because he's an only child, that he was sheltered and spoiled, he didn't have to do a lot of that stuff that was required by a
Hmm.
man. He didn't have to do
Hmm.
any of that before we got married. And that was a lot for him. It was too much for him. And I'm not making excuses, but I'm just describing
It
what's
is what it
happening.
is. Yeah.
It is what it is.
Hmm.
And I told him, I'm not your mother. This is real life. We have children. We are
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah.
It's not me doing all the paperwork, going to the meetings and all this other kind of stuff, but you want to say, hey, this is my wife, these are my kids. You're not acting like a husband,
Yeah.
until it looks good in the public eye to you. So
Yeah.
that was the hardest part, having to do everything alone. I couldn't call him and say, hey, can you come get your child, please? So I go to the movies. Can you come get Jeremiah so I can go to the nail salon or whatever?
Yeah.
25 years in, nothing.
Wow.
Until
Well,
he wants to be seen, or until
wow.
wants to see Jeremiah on his birthday or something. He didn't go to school events. He doesn't call on his birthday, or Christmas or any of that stuff. It's just like Jeremiah's invisible, but him and Ronnie have a close relationship. So And that's hard because my oldest son is like, Mommy, I don't know what to do. I said, listen, this is not your fight.
That's right. That's what I tell my son.
You're not in this. You're not in
Yeah.
this per se. That is your
Yeah.
father. I am not. I don't feel slighted that you do not have that your father has a relationship with you. I'm not angry at that or anything like that. I want him to be a father to his other son. That's it. That's all. I would never keep you from your father because he did not do his job with his other son. I went through the same thing with my dad. My mom did the same thing. She was like, well, if you're not going to come, if you're not going to come get which is my brother, if you're not going to come get him, you're not going to come get her because we're not doing that. That sort of thing
Mhm.
is very toxic and very hurtful and it drives wedges, because we're kids, we didn't understand that. I didn't understand why my mother was like, make sure you take your brother with you. If your brother can't go, then you can't go.
Mm.
And so these family dynamics, these are things that need to be talked about because this is something that people don't want to talk about. Some parents, they cannot handle the fact that they have a disabled kid, but it is what it is. That doesn't mean you tuck tail and run and act like they don't exist until you want them to.
But I
I
like the
had
way
to
you're
figure it out.
handling it. I do like the
Hmm.
way you're handling it, but I felt the same way as your mom. Like my ex-husband, he would try to come and get Jeremy and leave Morgan out. And I didn't really think it was such a big deal until one day. I didn't even realize she understood it. But one
Mm,
day he came and got him for his birthday. And he had an older son too. And he came and got them and he said, um, when they left out, she fell on the floor and started crying. And
mm,
she had to be maybe like, I think she was probably at least maybe like 6 or 7. She was around in that area. And I was devastated. And I did say, he was like, well, it's Jeremy's birthday and I'm doing something that they can enjoy, she wouldn't enjoy, or she can't do it. And I said, okay. So when I stopped it is when I said, well, when it was her birthday, well, what did she get? Did you plan something that she could
right,
do? And when
right.
he did not even address her on her birthday. He didn't address her. He did not come and get her. He did not take her anywhere. It was just like, for me, I was like, okay, that right there, it let me know that you can't X her out and make Jeremy the top of the food chain. That's what I wasn't gonna have. And again, for me,
Yeah.
I didn't really understand that she even understood until when they walked out the door, she fell on the floor and started crying. And I was like, oh, never again. Mm-mm,
Yeah.
mm-mm.
Jeremiah
So,
understood it. You know,
yeah.
he can't
So,
say, "Oh, why you not taking me?" But when his father would come around, he would just light up when he saw him. And the last time his father came to see him, which was on one of his birthdays, and his father literally sat there with his phone the entire time, or he was sitting there talking to his fiance at the time, that's now his wife. And they came and she had her daughter with him, and she was sitting on his lap, and Kiki and Jeremiah's looking like
what about me?
crickets. And from that point on, it was like, I am not going to put you through that.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not going to put you through that. I told him, I said, whether Jeremiah can put two words together to say he's hurt or not, you didn't even pay him enough attention to see that he was affected by the fact that you're holding somebody else and you're not even engaging him. So he stopped talking to you. He just looked at you like, okay, he's here. So what? He totally disconnected.
But you know what they fail to realize is, and I always tell people, whenever I became overwhelmed, I realized that I'm entertaining an angel. And that's what the scripture says. You got to be careful because
Yeah,
you don't always know who you're entertaining. And so
right.
for me, I know it doesn't sound right, but they're considered as fools, and God watches over the fools, the fatherless, and I
Hmm.
think it's the elderly. So you got to
Yeah,
really be really careful. And so for me, it became a time where, and I know when we met in partnerships, and
yeah.
I had one thing they were asking me, they were having all of us to talk about our life, and one thing that I told them is that the Lord had blessed me with a husband. I always grieved the fact that Morgan never had a father that I
Mm,
felt truly loved her. And you know
yes.
how the girls feel like, I'm a daddy's girl, my sister's girls, their father would take them out, they would have pedicure day and manicure day, and he would take his daughters and do that. I felt like Morgan never had that. And I know my sister, when I would it's one thing that I cried about, because I felt like all he had to do was really get to know her and he would love her, because most people, to know her is to love her. And it
Hmm.
grieved my spirit, and there were times that I just cried, and I would just be like, the Lord, how does her father not really love her? And it would break my heart.
Exactly.
But the Lord blessed me with a husband that came along, and he made her feel special. And that was, that was good for me. That was enough for me. And I think the Lord, they talk about the Lord bottling up your tears.
That's the
And I
scripture.
do, yes, I do believe that,
Yes,
and he
ma'am.
pours them, yeah. And
Hmm.
that was one thing that really grieved me, was Morgan not having a father. She knew she had a mother. Her and Jeremy both had a mother that loved them beyond measure. And sometimes you could say, I love them just as much, when they don't need no father. But I didn't. I felt like, and we know from a scripture standpoint, these kids, the mother and the father both play a role. God
Right.
orchestrated it that way.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when you say, oh, they don't need their father or they don't need their mother, that's not true. They
That's a
do.
lie.
They do. It's a
That's a lie.
void. It's a
Yeah.
void that's
Yep.
missing. So for me, even though she was disabled, I felt like there was a void missing from her life. And maybe everybody else didn't see it, because some people were like, well, she's better off without him. I said, but she still deserves to have a father that loves her.
Exactly.
Yeah, she
Exactly.
still deserves that. But he gave her one. And I thank God for that.
Yep.
And I know we got off on a whole lot of stuff, but I
No,
wanted to,
that's good. That's
it
good.
was,
Cause yeah.
yeah. I wanted to talk about the services that Jeremiah is given. Did he go to school? How did that look for him?
Because he had been sheltered so long due to his prematurity and he could not be around people due to the risk of RSV. When he would go to school, when he first started going to school, he would literally throw up every morning when the bus came because he was only used to myself, his great grandmother, and his aunts. Anybody else who would come in the room, whether he saw me or not, it was an automatic no. And so
Mm,
even though he liked going for a ride, he didn't want to go for a ride with them. So when the bus would come, he would cry so hard. It got to the point where I would just tell him, look, the bus is coming. So that way he could go ahead and start crying before he threw up before they came and put the towels down and stuff. I said, you have to go to school, Jeremiah. I got to go to work or something,
mm,
and
mhm,
stuff. And this went on for a good little bit until he, and I don't know if it was anxiety or part of the CP or both. And after a while, he loved the bus. After a while, he was like, Mommy, bus, and he was happy and jovial. His hands and feet were going. He went to school, did very well in school. Everybody knows him. He knew everybody else, all his teachers and things like that. I didn't like the graduation because at this time we were just coming off of COVID. The graduation was like a drive-through. It's like we went in there, they played the music, they gave us a certificate, we was out in an hour. It just felt so bland. It just
Jesus.
felt like nothing. He didn't get a yearbook. They wouldn't do a yearbook. I'm like, but the schools have been back open, so he's, was cheated out of what any high schooler would expect at this age. Where's the yearbook? Where's his, accolades and things like that and all of that? So he didn't get any of that, but he did
Mm,
finish and stuff. And so we didn't do day programs. He get his services through self-directed services where he has personal supports and a personal attendant and CDS, which is me, which is I take him out to the community, to the mall or whatever, so he can learn how to, say he wants something from the store, or if I give him a choice between a movie, he'll tell me what he wants to look at. If I give him two and I say pick one or whatever, give him verbal cues. So like I say, he's doing very well, despite,
okay.
despite being somewhat of the one woman show to a degree. And now that he's older, the support is not where it used to be because like you said, everybody's older, they're having their own health issues. Life is life for everybody. And so it's really difficult to have a life outside of this at this stage because nobody wants to live, number one. Two, nobody wants to change diapers. He's an adult. A baby you expect to change, an adult you don't.
Yeah.
So me trying to go on a trip or, you know, be away from home overnight, it's like a whole mission operation. And I'm sure you know this, but it's like planning a whole vicious operation. I got to make sure the food is already cooked. You know, his laundry is done. Make sure they have money or something in case they want to order DoorDash. Keep my phone on so I can send the DoorDash to them and all that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of moving parts just to do one thing. And when you do it so long, like me, it's like you're just better off staying home and bringing it to you, which is what I've done for a long, long time. So much so till it feels weird when I go outside and when I drive my car and when I go places. I haven't been to a movie in about 2 years. I haven't been on vacation since early 2000s. It's 2026. That's 20 something years ago. So this is what life looks like.
But Monique, that's not good.
I know
That's
it's
not.
not.
I mean,
I know.
because I know, and I listen. I'm telling you, I know for myself, I felt the same way with Morgan, but it became a burnout thing for me. And one thing that we always emphasize on the show is taking care of ourselves. I was just telling one of my friends today, I said, you know, with even with me and my husband, I will say it's a toss up because we have a family calendar and it's like one of us will get to the date before the other one does, or it makes it harder for us to be able to do a lot of the stuff together. But we become so intentional about that. And another
Uh-huh.
thing I become intentional about is taking care of myself. I heard you say like with him with the school bus, how it became like something he had to get used to, and then it was something that he began to enjoy. Is that not something that you need to start doing right now as with him being an adult? How hard is that so that you can still away and get that movie? If it's not, if even if it's just like once a weekend, what, how does that, I mean, I'm just, when I hear you talking, that's not good, Monique. It's not.
I know it. I wrote a whole book about burnout because I went through it, but I went through it before now. I went through it back in 21 after my grandmother and my sister died 2 weeks apart. That was enough for me. And it was a lot. Planning two funerals, doing all that. It was a lot. Like I said, it was a lot. And after a while, I started having heart palpitations, gastro issues, and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, so what's going on? So I've been in therapy ever since, regular therapy, grief therapy, all that kind of stuff. We were talking about yesterday grieving the child that you thought you would have at this
That's
stage,
right. That's
and
right. And that's
learning
real.
how to, yeah, and learning how to put me first. Because at this juncture, he would be trying to borrow his brother's car and go stay at his brother's house, and they would be
Right.
watching basketball or football,
Yeah.
or he'll be telling me about his girlfriend or any of that at work,
Yeah.
something, and I would be probably an empty nester, but I'm
Yeah.
not. And so,
And that
those are
can
the
be
things.
hard. People just don't
That's the reality.
understand. Yeah, it is. And you love your child. I was talking to somebody earlier and they was just telling me that they love their child. I said it does not negate the fact that you love your child. But even when my sister's girls went to college, a light bulb went off in my head. Like this would have been a year more than went off to college. And I grieved it.
Yeah.
I grieved for
Yeah.
like 4 days. I mean, I cried. It was like 3 to 4 days. I never got the opportunity to help Morgan, fix up her room. I never got the opportunity to be able to go and get our nails done together and have
Yep.
girlfriend talk. But sometimes when I'm doing my hair, and so I'll be like, hey, babe, does this look nice? I was like, I need that girl around to say, Ma, no, you got to do it this way. You don't get any of that. And so that's real to feel
Yeah.
that way. It is. It is. It's real to feel that way. But Monique,
Oh,
I want to just get back on you. Come on. What is your therapist telling you as far as making time for yourself?
uh, actually, I go outside, now I know this sounds weird, y'all, because people see me and they're like, "Oh, you're doing your books and all that," but outside of that, I'm in the house. I have family members who are upset with me at this moment because I did not show up in the way that they thought I should. But that's because they did not know that I pretty much barricaded myself in the house because I was burnt out.
Yeah.
But you would have known that had you, entertained me and, talked to me on a regular basis and all that. But like I say, another topic. It was, oh, you'll never do this. And I'm like, honey, do you understand how hard it is just for me to show up? To get up in the
Mhm.
morning, knowing that this is my same narrative day after day. If I don't get up, Jeremiah's not going to eat. If I don't get up and cook, Jeremiah, or whatever, Jeremiah's not going to get bathed and stuff like that. It's like me or nothing to a degree. I have to literally crash and burn to the point where I can't do anything before my family will say, okay, we'll be over there, we'll bring him some
Yeah.
food, we'll sit with him. And
Yeah.
people always say, well, you don't reach out to say anything, baby. Why should I have to? This is 25
I
years in.
totally
Jeremiah didn't
agree.
just get here. He didn't
I
just get
totally
here. What you
agree.
thought was going to happen? He's
Yeah. The
not
need is
better.
there. The need is
He's,
there, and why should it have to? It's like begging, and only to get
yeah.
sometimes
And I
people are
don't want to
saying,
do that.
"Yeah, I agree. I agree." I'm kind of like
Just for
that
you
in a
to say,
way.
nope, I can't come
Yeah.
today. Or why did you tell me this earlier? This is 25 years. We're on year almost 26.
Well, why not even
So.
offer it?
Yeah, they don't because they don't want to be in a position where they possibly have to change him. And like I told them, most of the time when I'm gone, if I'm during the day and it's not an overnight thing, I'm not gone that long anyway. I go do what I need to do and then I come back because I feel like at the end of the day, Jeremiah is my responsibility. And I know that's good, but when it's to the point where like me, where I don't go out, I don't go on dates, I don't go on trips or anything like that, yeah, that's bad. And so I'm rebuilding. I'm starting over. Um, I make sure I go outside and sit in the sun. I don't sit in my car anymore for hours and just cry like God, why? Or
Yeah,
all of that kind of stuff.
I've done
So
that. I,
it's a process for me. Because I'm getting older, or should I say I am older, and I realize that age is, time is not stopping for anybody, and making sure that I am doing the best that I can do for me, as well as doing what's best, what I think is best anyway, for Jeremiah. And that comes with a lot of hard conversations. Like, for example, I had to do the medical stuff for him. And they asked me, do I want him to be a DNR, a girl that wrecked my spirit so bad I cried and cried. I'm like, how am I supposed to make a decision like that? And so
yeah,
when I talked to his doctor about it, she said, listen, when kids like yours is born early, they've already been through brain trauma and things. She said, this is what the process looks like. If you don't sign a DNR, they will come to your house and try to resuscitate him for a whole hour. Do you want to sit there and watch that?
but do
Because
you
his doctor
feel
comes to the
guilty?
home.
But do you feel
Um,
guilty? And I will say, I had to add, my sister is on, and when Morgan had a foot surgery, they asked me that, and I was afraid to tell people. I sat there for a minute to answer that question, and that was real. Because I was just like you, Monique. My day was so hectic. My life was so, it was like
yeah.
Groundhog Day. If anybody saw that movie, it was
Yes,
the
thank
same
you.
all day,
Yes, every
every
day.
day. It was the same.
Same thing,
And
routine.
when they asked me that question, I felt guilty because I wanted to say no, because I just wanted things to be a little easier for me. I did. But I felt like the right answer was yes, I want her resuscitated. Afterwards, I cried like a baby because I even
Yeah.
had to second guess that. But I told my sister and my best friend, and I just was like, I could be honest with y'all. I just want things to be easy sometimes. I do. But it's not that I didn't love my daughter. I didn't like the process. I didn't like the
Yeah.
day. The day in and day
Yeah.
out was a lot.
That's
It
it.
was a
And
lot.
people don't understand it. They just think that we're making up stuff, or I'm using Jeremiah as a sob story. I said, baby, this is my life. This is not a sob story. This is me living it every single day in real time. What sob story?
Yeah.
I have to walk this out. Now I
And
could
then
have
they
been
say
like
you
his
strong.
father.
Everybody
Yeah,
say you're
I could
strong.
have
It's
left
like I don't have
too.
another choice. What choice
Yeah.
do I have?
I could have put him in a group home and went on about my life if that's what I wanted to do. But the mom and me didn't want to do that. The mom and me
Yeah,
didn't want to do that, but the human part of me did. Let's just be honest.
that's
Does that
honest.
mean my life was going to get better? No, I don't know that. I don't hold the future, so I don't get to know that. But with the DNR, I wrestled with the decision because I asked myself, Monique, are you making this decision because you feel like it will be easier?
But what's wrong with that sometimes? I I get it.
if it's easier for you to just let him go, or are you making this decision because you think that this is going to be what's best for him? And I'm like, it's a double-edged sword if you ask me,
Mhm. It
because
is.
as a mother, we want our kids to thrive and be okay, like you said. That doesn't mean, whatever. It is what it is. So when I talked, like I said, I talked to his doctor, she was like, Monique, you don't want that, because remember, his brain is already compromised. So if he go without oxygen and all that kind of stuff, he's not going to be the same if he was resuscitated, if he had went
And then
without
it
oxygen.
becomes harder on you.
And it's going to be more things happening, and then you're going to have to deal with more things. And so she explained to me about that, and what, if I had to do intubation, I had to be the one to say yes, put it in, and yes, take it out, and all this. And I was like, you know what? I say
Mhm.
thank you for answering my questions, and I cried right in front of her. I say thank you, because I was just wrestling like, what am I supposed to do? What
Yeah.
part of
And
the
then what's
journey is? Ain't
expected?
nobody talked to us about that,
It's almost like it's
So
an expectation. It's almost like you're expected to say yes. I know I felt like that. I felt like I was expected to say yes, because if I didn't, it almost means that I didn't love my daughter. So I was wrestling with it because
hmm
I wanted life to be easier. You know how people get up and go on trips, and people just, oh, I went to New
yes,
York for the weekend. Oh, I just popped up, and I'm like, you get to do that? And in your
yes.
mind, you're like, I
I
would
can't
love to be.
imagine it.
Yeah, it's the truth. It's the truth. So Monique,
I need a team now. I need a team to take my son with me. I can't get him out of the bed. If I did get him in the bed in the hotel room, can you imagine lifting a 25-year-old out of a hotel room bed that's what, 4 inches lower than, you're standing tall? I'm like 6 feet, trying to pick him up and put him in a wheelchair. No. So for me, it was like, well, since he can't go, I felt like for me, then I shouldn't be. It was like I felt like I shouldn't be able to have fun or have a life because my son couldn't. And that was the
mhm,
mom guilt. And that's one of the things that I was working through in therapy, is like, no, this is not your fault. You still got to live and have an outlet, so that
you do.
you could be able to take care of him. You can't stay in this groundhog day forever and don't do anything else. I have told people no off the break before they even ask me to go somewhere, sis. I don't call me and ask me, because you know what my answer is. Come on, let's go to the movies. Nope. Let's go to the book fair. No. Just the simplest things. No. Me, getting better is me going outside to go to my mailbox.
Yeah.
That's me taking small steps, me sitting out in the part of the sun that shines through my trees where my patio is. And so it's one step at a time. I haven't been to the nail shop in I don't know how long. I do keep my hair done, so that's the one thing I do for myself. But I know that's not necessarily considered self-care, because I would have done it anyway. But that's the one thing I consistently do. So I am trying to find a positive outlet that I can do, that I can stick to, because I get upset when I start doing something that I really enjoy, and then because I have to make all these adjustments, have to stop, it sends me into this mental rabbit hole. And I'm like, see, if my
It's a
son
lot.
wasn't this way, then I could
Yeah.
do this and it wouldn't be an
Yeah.
issue. And then you just go through this thing all over again. So I just learned how to stop myself and cut it off at the path. You know what I mean? And say, look, you
But
matter
you
just as much
deserve
as
it.
Jeremiah.
That's
I
right.
would
You
love to
deserve
go on a cruise, sis. I would love to get on somebody's plane. As
it.
scared as I am of a plane, and go somewhere to look at something else other than his bedroom, his bed, his wheelchair, my bedroom, and whatever. And so I'm determined before this year's over. I don't care if I go down the street to the hotel 2 blocks away to do
That's right.
something for myself, and just
Is that
start
part
there.
of the rebuilding? So is this okay? So are you putting this almost like a outline? Are you putting a rebuilding process in place for you to take baby steps for you to focus on you?
I'm just kind of winging it, because it doesn't always go that way. Even with my best planning, I have people who wait until I'm supposed to walk out the door and then call me and say I can't come.
Yeah, I get it.
So, it's like when I know I'm going to go somewhere, I generally don't get excited until I'm in the car and I'm pulling off.
Oh, yeah, that
No, I'm
was
serious.
me.
I don't. Yeah, I'm
I
like, okay, I'm
listen.
supposed to
You
be
preaching
going.
to the choir.
Yeah, so
You
you
preaching
understand
to the
it.
choir.
When
Yeah.
I went to Pennsylvania, because I was given a caregiver award, I was not excited until I got to the hotel and the TV screen said, "Welcome, Monique." I'm like, yes, I'm out of town and I drove myself and I'm by myself and having fun. I was like, man, I gotta do this more often. When I had to go back home, sis, I was like, let me see if I can squeeze one more day out. I
I'm
squeezed
with
one
you.
more day out of it and then I came on home. But yeah, it's a great big world
Well,
out
who
there.
had Jeremiah during that time?
That particular time, it was he had the male caregiver coming in the morning and stuff like that, and then two of his aunts in the evening, and one of my cousins for lifting in case they needed to change the sheet for some reason. But like I said, it's a team effort now. It's not a
Yeah.
one person job unless
It's
he's
not.
he's here because he can do it. Like his male caregiver, I try to help him lift him into the chair. He pulls me with him when he lifts him to put him in his chair. He's like, move out the way. I got this. I'm not gonna drop him. So listen, it took me a while to trust him enough to change his diapers, to bathe him, to
Yeah.
just be there. I was standing over his
Mhm.
shoulder like this. He like, can you
I
he
understand.
said, and he was like, look, can you back up a little bit? Because I know what I'm
Mhm.
doing. I said, I know you, I'm not saying you don't know what you're doing, but I'm mommy. So I got to
But you got to
see.
get to a point, Monique, and when I tell you Morgan is 21, and I'm totally, totally with you. But you have to. You sound like you are a praying woman, and this is what I did. You have to pray and ask God to give you that team that you can have peace with, because the thing about it is you need time away. I don't care if
I
it's
do.
once a month. You gotta build. And I'm gonna tell you, when me and my husband, even before my husband came along, every year I would try to at least go away to Atlantic City, me and my friend, and we went to the Red Door Spa, and we stayed the
Oh,
weekend.
nice.
We did, and we only did the weekend. But as time went on and as Morgan got older, that wasn't an option for me anymore.
Hmm.
But the more that I did, I mean, I went up there, I went shopping, we went to the spa. And when I was in the spa, you could stay in there all day and sleep. I would sleep. I mean, when I say I would sleep, because for me, it was just a luxury, which people don't understand, even being able to sleep on a morning. Because once they
Hello.
wake up, you get up. You got
I
to.
mean, the good thing for me is Jeremiah can't get out the bed or do any of that. So him being awake is, just him being awake singing. So I can lay there, but the mom brain says, now he need to be changed. It's been all night,
Yeah,
so just get
that was
on
me
up.
with my daughter.
He's probably thirsty, so just get on up and then you can go lay back down. But of course, by that time, we done got up, made breakfast, did laundry, changed diapers,
You
bathed
never
and
got to
dressed. And
sit
now the
back
day, yeah,
down.
the day is started. But today I did that. Today before I came on the show, I said, let me just sit and quiet for, a
That's
little
a
bit
luxury.
before the show started because my head
That's
was
a
just pounding
luxury.
for some reason today. It was just like, why? Is my head pounding. I said, Lord, help me because I gotta get this, I gotta get on here and, talk to people and things like that. So just let me woo-saw for a minute. So a
Well,
lot of
listen.
that therapy for
Mm,
me is quiet and crying.
yeah, it's
I don't journal
man.
like I used to, and I should, but I don't journal as much as I used to unless it's something that I feel like really bothers me. And then I put it on paper. Usually I just talk about it on my podcast, and that's my way of release. Or I do these lives with, other people who want to know about like my books and what caregiver CPR is about, or, grief is a gangster type, and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm slowly getting back to the me that I was.
And you know what, Monique? I know we don't have a lot of time. And I feel like, oh my God, girl, we identify on so many different levels. We do. But I know we were talking about, of course, we spoken, and my daughter is entering transitioning into the DDA program. Your son has
Mm-hmm.
been there. How I know there are a lot of changes that have come up, not favorable changes, but
Mm-hmm.
how are you implementing? Is that going to help? I know some of it is not, but is there a way for you to kind of get more services or utilize the services to your advantage so that you can have more time to yourself?
The way the services is set up because he's not in the group home, no. Because when you're the one when you become the group home, so to speak, you're responsible for making all that happen. So
Mhm.
no, he's not going to get like any more services that would literally benefit to where I can do things I want to do. I have to source out. So when I go places and do things, I have to pay people to, keep Jeremiah, family included
So they,
now. So,
what about, because I know I'm learning, it's like I have a vendor for Morgan. Um,
hmm
I have a vendor and I have someone that I've already selected to be her CDS, her CBS, the community based person. How I know you do that. We're gonna kind of do more personal supports to help out, but that 8 to 4 time, I need that time to myself. How could that look like for you? Is that something that is doable?
well, because the way my setup is now, I'm the one who will be working from 8 to 4. So right now, our schedules is split because there's three of us, but because of all of the changes and the cuts, I'm going to have the full-time schedule now. So my time will be after, I guess, whatever my 8 hours is and all that kind of stuff. Because personal supports don't do what you think they do. Like personal supports don't cover him being lifted in and out the wheelchair. That's not what
Mhm.
personal supports is for. Personal supports is for assisting with meals and folding clothes and all that kind of stuff. That
Mhm.
doesn't help with assisting me taking him to doctor's appointments because I got to get him out the chair to lay him on the exam table.
Okay.
That's not even in the job description. So the things that Jeremiah really needs, he does not get and he's not going to get. I have to source out.
Okay,
So
so then
yeah.
with that being said, okay, so from what I'm hearing, the community based person does more of the lifting, the like the heavy lifting. The personal support is more of an assistant thing. So if you had to kind of, since you're doing the 8 to 4 almost hours, the personal supports person, when they come in, you would still need to have someone that will lift him because the personal supports does not do that. Is that what I'm
I'm
hearing?
lifting all the time. The personal supports is not allowed to do any of that. They only do house-based kind of stuff. They don't go out to the community. CDS, which is community development, which is me. I'm the one who drives him to Walmart, Target, and all that kind of stuff. They don't pay you to take them on vacation. They don't pay you to take them to the movies per se or any of
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. When you go to doctor's appointments, you have to clock out if you're CDS. Personal supports can get paid to assist with doctor's appointments, but not me. And I'm the one with the wheelchair van, so go figure. So the bulk of it still falls on me. The little bit of help that we do have, I'm grateful for because it helps, but it is not what he mainly needs. It's kind of it's kind of a one less thing on the to-do list. So when they're gone, which they are, I'm the one still lifting, turning, adjusting him in the bed and all that kind of stuff because they're not here all day. And you're not allowed to work past midnight because they consider that overnight. DDA has changed a lot. The vendors, you have to be approved through DDA now as a vendor.
Yeah.
You can't just, yeah, it's a whole form and a whole thing and a whole
Yeah, it's a
certification
lot with
process.
that.
It's way different than it was when we first came. Of course, the salaries have dropped drastically. I told you that for a lot of us, our salaries were cut by $30,000 to give you an idea of what that looks like. And so, for some people, unfortunately, they are left scrambling, trying to figure out how they're going to make ends meet with rent and the high cost of everything, health insurance and things like that. Because DDA has drawn a line. You can't have a family policy now and get reimbursed. You have to be on it by yourself, which is not practical because when you work a job that, gives you benefits, one of the things is a family health insurance plan. Well, not through
Yeah.
DDA. They say we're only covering the person who is actually employed with the participant and nothing else. No, if your policy has vision included or dental, no. They just want
Mm.
straight health insurance only.
Now, I hear you say you do a lot of lifting with your son. Is there a way that they have? I know some people have like a lifter, something to lift them up. Is that an option?
I have a Hoyer lift, but his room is too small.
Mm.
The Hoyer
Okay.
lift doesn't fit in he finally, for the first time, he has a bedroom, but the bedroom isn't big enough for the Hoyer lift and the wheelchair. So I could take the Hoyer lift in the room and lift him up to put him in the chair, but I can't lift him up to remove the kangaroo pouch from behind him for him to sit in the chair. And so he can't sit in the chair with the kangaroo pouch. So that creates a whole other issue. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
unless somebody else is here to help me, um, and we're not going out for a CDS day, he's in the bed because that's the only choice I have right now.
Mm.
So that's what this looks like.
Wow, Monique,
Yeah.
I'm just praying because I just listen. The way that you talk about your day, that was me with Morgan, and Morgan is 21. She has cerebral palsy, but she is able to walk. She has the AFOs, but again, for me, the day was like Groundhog Day. And oh my God,
Yeah.
don't let the holidays come. And she was out of school, whereas most parents rejoice because, oh my God, they're out of school. I'm scrambling because I have nothing for her to do. I have nowhere for her to go, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, my daughter likes drives too. So can you imagine with the gas prices? It was like during a pandemic, we would drive sometime for at least 50 miles just to make her that was our day, opening up the sunroof and just driving. But it was
Yeah.
definitely not something. My days were dedicated to my daughter, so I understand exactly how you feel because it was like, what do I do? I mean, it's she's sitting around. She's a typical, teenager. She doesn't want to sit around and watch the four walls. So it's like you gotta get her out the house. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's not a lot of places for them to go. It's not a lot of things for them to do. Certain atmospheres was not, it didn't line up with her. So it's like I was just limited as to what I could do and where I could go. And it
Yeah.
can be,
Yeah.
it can be somewhat depressing. It can be
It
very
is
depressing.
very,
I never claimed
very.
depression. I never did because some people was like, don't claim it, don't claim. But sometimes that's what it was. And I was like you, sometimes when I would get home, I would sit in the garage and I would just cry in my car, or I would cry on the way home, or there were just times that it was just really depressing because it was like life was passing me by. And not to
Yeah.
mention, don't let me get on social media and I see everybody living their life. I stopped going on because it was depressing. It was depressing.
Yeah, people don't
Yeah,
tell you that part. A lot of people don't be transparent, tell you that part.
it
My
was
son
hard.
didn't go to summer camps and stuff because he would just sit there. He couldn't paint, he couldn't write.
Yeah,
So you were just gonna let him sit in the sun all day outside at
yeah,
Merle Parker Plant and not change him. I don't know if
yeah,
you're gonna give him water. He can't tell me if he got stung by a bee,
yeah,
any of that.
yeah.
So no, it was on me. It's
Mhm.
on me no matter
It's
what
easier for them to be
happens. The
home.
reality, yeah, the
Yeah,
reality is everything you do as a full-time caregiver revolves around whether you got adequate care for him, whether you try to, gloss over it or try to separate yourself from it, it's there. I can't do anything. I can't even leave him to go to 7-Eleven, and 7-Eleven is 2 minutes away.
yeah,
Because if the building, God forbid, caves or catch on fire, he can't save himself.
yeah.
And
It's
so,
real.
when they come and do these questionnaires, talking about, do you have a fire escape plan? The fire escape plan is to pray that we never have one
Mhm.
because I'm pretty sure, my adrenaline would kick in. I would like to think I would drag Jeremiah as far as I could, even to my, demise. But realistically speaking, if a fire is gushing through here, what you think is going to happen?
Yeah,
So we don't want to think about that stuff. That's the kind of stuff that keep you up at night. If you, hopefully
yeah,
you don't get sick or need a major surgery, because what would care for him
yeah.
look like?
Oh
Again,
my
people
gosh.
don't show up for you until they realize you can't show up. And then
Yeah,
that's when they show up. Nobody shows up until, like, when I caught COVID. I had COVID. I couldn't even get out the bed. That's when they showed up. And even then they still wanted to know what was I cooking or what was I doing for Thanksgiving or whatever. Dude, I'm up here with 104-degree temperature. You asking me, am I cooking?
yeah. It's real.
Like, so yeah, this is the kind of things that we think about at night as we age. Lord, let me be prepared so that I can prepare him as much as possible. There is no trust fund, there is no, able account and all this other kind of stuff. I've been home for 18 of 20, Jeremiah's 25 years. There's no nest egg, there's no savings, there's no plan B, there's no nothing.
Yeah.
So it's me, it is what it is. This is my world and I live here. I tell people that this is how it is for some of us. Everybody doesn't can't go out and work. I've tried it and had to quit every single time. I worked for DCPS. I worked for PGCPS. Had to come off of it because he needed a surgery or he needed this or he needed that. So that's my journey. I can't talk about nobody else's, but that's been my journey. I haven't worked enough quarters to even draw retirement from. I went on the little thing to check sis to see what was in there. It said $300. I'm 50 years old.
Monique, but God watches. Oh, I promise you,
Yes.
God does not
Yes.
fail us. God
He
entrusted, and
doesn't.
and this is. I know we get ready to close. I could go on for hours with you because I want to have you back on. I just love your transparency. This is me and my closing. I love your transparency because for me, I can totally identify with where you are, where you've been.
Hmm.
Um, it's you're just telling my journey. I just haven't put it down in a book. And some people told me to put it in a book, but it's too depressing for me to even kind of admit some of these things to myself. So I didn't
But you
want to even,
should, sis,
yeah,
because
I
once you
didn't.
do, the healing will
Sometimes
come.
going back is hard for me. It's really hard
Yeah,
for me.
it
It really
is. I'm not gonna
is.
lie.
It's
I'm not gonna
hard. So
lie.
I did. Mm-mm. God knows my story, and I just didn't. I don't want to go back down that path because it's too hard for me. But at the same time, I thank God for where I am today because I didn't
Amen.
ever in a million years think that I would see the sun one day. And I can open up the blinds and not be fearful of there's a thunderstorm going on outside. But today,
Hmm.
I can honestly say I thank God for my sunshine. I do. But it didn't come easy. I had a lot of rainy, thundering days, and I went through it
Yes.
alone, not with people, because all the time you don't feel like talking to people, but I talk to the Lord. And I just tell you, I'm praying for the mothers, the single parents, the caregivers like you that haven't really seen that sunny day like they should. But I want you to know that God has not forgotten you. He has
That's
not.
right.
That He has not forgotten. On your worst days, understand He has not forgotten you. And a thing that I will wake up every day and say before I got out of bed, I said, today, God, I'm looking for my blessing. Today it's going to be
Yes.
different. Before I got up, I made that up on my own. I was just like, Lord, today I'm not gonna get when I'm at work. I'm not gonna get 5 and 10 calls from her school, and I'm having
Hmm.
anxiety in my arms and
Hmm.
pains in my chest. Today,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get to the daycare and see my daughter or get a bag full of wet clothes. I mean, it was just like every day it was something. So I get you,
Yeah.
I know, but again, my life is not perfect by far. It's not. My husband has made a difference, but at the end of the day, I still feel like the weight of the world, Morgan, will always be on me, always. And
Exactly.
because
Always.
I will never ever feel 100% where I can relinquish that to anybody. And I used to worry about, what if something
Nope.
happened to me? What could I do? Who could I entrust Morgan to that would love her like me? It was always a hard thing, but I always said, God,
Yep. He got a
you do
plan.
all things well. He does all
Hmm.
things well. And I
Yep.
say to you, Monique, I just, you will be in my prayers. I just, we need to, the world needs to hear these things. They need to hear these things because I think, you know, you don't want people to feel sorry for you, not by far, not by far. I just want
Exactly.
you to know.
Exactly.
I
Just
just want
for
you
you
to
to see what
know.
this is like. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
you
just
can
want you
have an
to know.
understanding before
Yeah,
you make comments and judgments and assumptions what this
yeah.
is like every single day.
Well, those are my closing comments, Monique. I just want to give you a time, but just know that I'm praying for you and I'm believing. I'm believing that God has a master plan for you, that you won't have to go out and peek and see the sun, but you will have sunshine in your life. You will
Amen.
have that total
Yeah.
sunshine in your life, that the storms are going to pass. I'm believing that for you. I'm believing that. I'm believing that. So I will just close out with that. But Monique, I just want to thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate your transparency. I
Absolutely.
do. And I will pray. I ask my listeners, those that know the words of prayer, those, please pray for Monique. Please pray for Jeremiah. Please pray
Yes.
for the Lord to make life easier for them. Please. And all of our caregivers, because um there are a lot of caregivers that share your story.
Yes. A
Yes.
lot.
Yes.
Hmm.
But I just thank you, Monique, for taking time away. And I just pray for you. I do.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad we got a chance to finally do this
I
after leaving
know.
partners. So
I
don't be a
definitely
stranger.
Oh, I definitely want to have you back because I think your expertise and your journey is going to help someone else.
Yeah.
All right. All right,
Okay,
guys. Well, thank
sis.
you so much. I appreciate everybody for joining us again. We have another episode of Advocacy next week. And before I go, we have our fundraiser and it's closing on the last day to join our raffle is June the 5th. So we're asking for everybody to join and buy some raffle tickets. And listen, if you don't need a night out, we ask that you sponsor a family like Monique. Sponsor
Yes.
Monique so that she can get a night out.
Yes.
So if you don't need a night out,
Yes.
I'm praying that you sponsor other caregivers that you think is just like you get up and say, I'm going to the movies tonight. All of us don't have that. So I'm just asking that you take and put Monique's name in the hat for her to join in this raffle. The last day is June the 5th, and we will announce our winners on June the 6th. So
Awesome.
please,
Awesome.
yes, please join our raffle. This is another fundraiser for advocacy. And again, we're talking behind the scenes to extend, we're broadening our, the help that we give parents. We're trying to add in more help for our parents so that we
Awesome.
can help them with more things because most of our people that's on our team are caregivers and they are the ones that share Monique's story. So just please join us if you can, just to buy some raffle tickets and support our caregivers. We appreciate it. So with that being
Absolutely.
said, we will see you guys next Thursday. Have a good one, Monique.
Bye.
Bye.